it turns out that a rational, data-driven problem-solving approach has its own emotional appeal to a certain subset of voters.
Yeah.
And this is not deliberate. This just happens to be who I am and how I'm wired. Where, to me, if there's a problem, you try and solve it, and you listen to what the data tells you. Is that an advantage or disadvantage? I'm actually very excited about the fact that it seems like there's a huge appetite for that approach right now among the electorate that is sick and tired of the arguing about various symbols and culture war issues and things that are relatively marginal relative to the problems we actually face.
Yeah, so Yang is a person that has multiple coalitions by his side. He has libertarians, conservatives, progressives, all into one batch. So.
Because I believe Andrew gets it, not just in offering lofty words or rhetoric, but rather by having a track record, or like we say today, receipts. He's got receipts.
My whole life, I've wanted an outsider to take the presidency, and then it finally happens, but it was him.
Maybe the wrong outsider.
Exactly, the wrong one. Now, I'm one of your aforementioned Republicans who have jumped ship. I've been on.
Yes.
I'm on your campaign now.
Yes.
And
I was pretty apolitical as well, but I was kind of leaning more towards Bernie, but he wasn't even an option for the last election. So I would say I really wasn't feeling Trump or Hillary, so for the last election.
The main thing about Andrew Yang is I feel like the way that he speaks, the way that he the way that he conducts himself, the policies that he has in mind, and kind of he makes his decisions based on facts, right? It's not like any sort of pandering to anyone on the right or left. No, not too much identity politics, that sort of stuff. He gets right to the meat of the issue.
Universal basic income is a really smart idea, and he's a good guy who cares about America.
I'm looking forward to this. I mean, these guys in Iowa came up to me and they said, I voted for Donald Trump. I'm going to vote for you. One person said, you're actually what I hoped for when I voted for Donald Trump.
Wow.
So I can get some Trump supporters behind me because I'm trying to address the same problems that got him elected.
I feel like the country's divided left and right, and he's more centered. You know what I'm saying? And even though I'm a Republican, I agree with some of his views, and how a lot of jobs are getting automated and stuff like that. I feel like he's the only one that brings up those issues. You know what I mean? So I don't know, and he has the balls to go on Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson. You know what I'm saying? So I give him props for that.
He's giving the power to the people to spend the money rather than having the government determine how to spend the money.
But the thing is, after looking through his platform, and I haven't been in politics for a while, but I'm liking it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good stuff that he's got here, and I know he wants to move fast.
Well, I think that biggest thing is that he has some transformative policy ideas, and when I say transformative, I'm saying that these are things that, if done, it's going to change the way that we're going to look at politics.
Yeah, it's going to shake up the fucking paradigm. That's what it's going to do.
And I think that there's this enormous appetite among Americans for real talk about solutions that will actually move us forward. And that's on both sides of the aisle. It's one reason why this campaign's doing so well and is going to keep doing well, is that that politicians are kind of stuck in their particular discussion modes, and a lot of Americans are like, wait a minute, this doesn't actually seem to solve my problem. And then they hear me and they're like, ooh, that's not everything, but it's $1,000 in cash actually makes more sense to me than a lot of these other things.
I've often felt that we went to a very extreme end in electing Donald Trump, which I didn't vote for, but I understand that Americans wanted somebody different outside the traditional political realm, and I think Andrew Yang is really what we were really looking for, not just somebody that had a know-how with finances and dealings and business, but also someone that has a heart.
Right. So people like to hear that they're getting cash as opposed to more government programs. That's why.
Not bailing out the banks, but bailing out the people.
A little bit later as well, but just the general state of pressure that young people feel like they're under, which is why I think some of your economic policies are so directed towards young people right now.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, one of the things I say in my book is that, I got into Brown and Stanford when I was applying to college. My parents were psyched. The acceptance rates for those schools were 20% plus when I was applying back in 1992. Then you look now, those acceptance rates are, I think, 9 and 5% or something like that. Mm-hmm. So kids are under even more pressure now to try and get into various competitive schools. And then when they show up to these schools, the pressure doesn't stop. And so you have these epically high levels of anxiety and depression and stress, in part because when they come out of school, they're entering a really punishing economy where 44% of recent college graduates are going to be underemployed. And on some level, they all kind of sense this. And so instead of an environment of intellectual exploration, college seems like a culling or
almost like indentured servitude or something in a weird way.
Yeah, and because of the record levels of both cost and the school loans that were loading up on top of young people. So to me, it is all tied together.
I just really like when Andrew talks about his policies, he's backing it up. You know, I've watched a lot of his interviews, especially the Joe Rogan one where he goes into detail. I feel like he's one of the few candidates, like if you ask him a question, he can spend like an hour talking about why he believes in it and the data that backs it up and how it helps people.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm glad you brought up the Joe Rogan podcast. One of the things I really admire about Andrew Yang is that he goes on all the shows. He's not scared to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Do you think the other Democrat candidates could learn from him, or do you think that it's just him doing this stuff?
Yeah, I think so. I think Andrew Yang is you know, I think he's just willing to talk to anybody. Anybody that's asked him a question about what he believes and why he's doing this, he's willing to answer it. Yeah. You know, the idea is not left or right but forward, right? And I feel like it's been really great, like seeing him go on Fox, and initially you'll see some like kind of competition, or it seems like they're attacking him, but by the end they're like, oh,
Andrew Yang can handle it.
Yeah, can handle it. He talks really well.
And that's what you want out of a president.
Exactly.
Right?
He doesn't spend time attacking people. You know, what's done is done. We're here. It's where we are, but we want to move forward now. You know what I mean?
And then you have a democracy that's being held captive in many ways by the same moneyed interests. And that's why young people today are coming of age where they think capitalism doesn't serve their interests very well. And they're correct. So you can't fault them. And so if I had grown up during this era, I too would be very dubious given the record levels of student loan debt and the underemployment and everything else. So we need to fix both systems. We need to fix both capitalism so that it functions better for more Americans. And then we need to return democracy to our people as fast as possible.
Thank you for being so blunt, I guess, about I think that women should just take the vote, because I feel like a lot of candidates that I've heard talk have not just said that, which I feel like is the obvious answer.
Three things: he's smart, he's calm, and most importantly, he has perspective. Don't get me wrong, I don't agree with Yang on everything. He's a man who gets it. Of all the 10 people up there, Yang understands that Trump did not win because of racism or bigotry or homophobia or all the buzzwords that people go on about. Yang understands that it is an economic question why Trump won.
I just think that he is so important right now because he kind of symbolizes let's wake up and get engaged in the world that we're living in right now, because so many people are disengaged with politics because they just see it as political theater, which it is. It is. But now Yang is actually presenting real problems with real solutions and an optimistic perspective, and I'm just oh my god, this is what I needed. This is what I needed for my politics. This is what I needed the whole time.
Good. So I see over here we have a very large Trump flag, but we are at an event here for Andrew Yang. Could you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here?
Yeah, I'm out here because I think Andrew Yang attracts independents. In fact, I don't think he's that bad. So I actually wouldn't be that worried if he was president.
To me, I can see the sincerity in Yang's talks and speeches, and that's something that speaks volumes to me. I think a person's integrity is a big deal, and when I see that in someone, it makes me want to hear more, and that's why I'm here.
So my friend Rico actually got me turned on to listening about his viewpoints, and I think that's something that would really help my industry a lot, getting a UBI. I'm a chef. We make very little money and work very hard.
He seems to be the only candidate that has future-looking policy proposals without a crazy emphasis on PC culture or having done other things to disgrace himself.
Because the future of America is very important, and he has solutions. He's not talking about problems, talking about solutions that we're going to need to get to at a certain point, because our future it's coming, and it's coming quickly.
Andrew Yang, he's logical.
He's sober-minded. He's thoughtful. He's analytical. He's the Spock of presidential picks. Because every time I see him in an interview, it's just like, oh, that's so refreshing to just hear facts. It's just refreshing to hear, a sober stream of consciousness. Someone who has a plan, somebody who understands history and who knows how it pertains to the future and what we need to do to change things in the future. And just, it's very refreshing.
The way he speaks is almost bipartisan because he really only cares about one thing, which is making our lives better. And isn't that what a politician originally should be focused on? At the end of the day, people want someone who has integrity and isn't part of this whole big corrupted system, taking money from lobbyists behind everyone's backs while paying lip service to everyone else. A lot of other candidates just sound like angry anti-Trump activists, and while I understand where that comes from, that's not really working toward fixing things. It's just basically pandering to what they think their party wants to hear, which can only really go so far.
One powerful thing about Andrew Yang's freedom dividend, it is a supremely democratic instrument. Everybody gets it, rich and poor alike. It's a monthly reminder that we are connected, and we are all connected to the same exact degree. It is also a reminder that we are connected to the capitalist engine. We're not separate from that. We are participants in that. We get to direct on a monthly basis a piece of that capital engine. Just having that reminder on a monthly basis that we are all connected to the same degree, rich, poor, black, white, male, female, straight, gay, we are all connected. And we are all reminded of this connectedness, and we are all in the same boat.
Andrew Yang is my legacy to my descendants, and I will not rest until this guy is president.
So it's been wild, but the way I can get this done is that it's not left or right, it's forward. And that as president, I'm just going to be completely non-ideological and solutions-oriented. And after I win, people will be very, very drawn to that approach. I can get a lot of good things done for the American people.